Today we're going to hear about the Dukes County Sheriff's Office Project Lifesaver and Triad programs that are protecting the island seniors. We're also going to hear about fraud trends and tactics. Everybody likes to hear these stories, right? CSI type stories about tactics and trends within fraud. Thank you to the FBI for providing that overview. I'm sure that will be fascinating. And then at the end of the presentation, we're going to have a Q&A session, moderated Q&A. So if you have some questions, make note of those so that we can have a vibrant dialogue. At Martha's Vineyard Bank, we believe in a strong community bank as the cornerstone to a vibrant community. We believe that our role is pivotal to ensuring the strength of the fabric of the community, and that everyone in our community, especially our elders, feel safe, supported, and protected. As a community bank, we don't just manage money, we build relationships. That, I think, maybe sounds a little bit cheesy, but when you think about it, building those relationships, what I realize, the folks that see financial crimes happening on a regular basis, it's those relationships that provide the greatest security. So the best security you can have, I think, for a financial transaction is to actually show up in person, face-to-face with someone. And that's very, very, very difficult to circumvent for a fraudster or a scammer. And so being there for our customers is very important to us, and those relationships are key to providing trust and security. Elder fraud is one of the fastest growing crimes in the country. It's happening now all the time, I think, from the bank's perspective. In terms of fraud attempts that we have, it's up by a factor of 5 in as many years. It is rampant, and I think maybe as we go forward, we'll maybe have a conversation about whether this should be an elder fraud event or whether this should just be a fraud event, because it's affecting everyone all the time, and we're seeing it in so many different directions. On Martha's Vineyard and in Falmouth, our population includes many retirees, so this topic is, I think, near and dear to our hearts, and our elders deserve to live with dignity without the threat of financial harm, and preventing elder fraud is a shared responsibility. This event, I think, is very important as everyone here in this room, are maybe not only directly affected, but more importantly, the number of people that each one of us can reach amplifies the effectiveness and the reason, the effectiveness and impact of this discussion. So I think that's extremely important, because people that are affected by fraud feel like they're the only ones that have ever been affected by fraud. They also, when you hear the stories and you're aware of it, they're much more attuned to spotting that, wait a minute, this doesn't sound right, or this sounds very similar to the horror story that I just heard at an event like this, or sharing anecdotally. So I'm thinking of this session as empowering the protectors and evangelists who work tirelessly to protect and serve, as important or maybe even more important than reaching those that are directly affected. And spreading the words about fraud risks and protections to others is critically important. The bank's employees are trained to recognize red flags, to recognize these patterns as they're happening. We're intimately involved in diffusing those situations, mitigating those situations, and so we have a certain level of expertise that helps in spotting these problems. I can tell you from a community bank perspective versus a big bank perspective, and this is certainly a plug for community banks, obviously, but I think it's very real and true and worthy of saying. If you have fraud on your account at a big bank, and we know that if money gets sent somewhere else to another large bank, the possibility of getting that money back or circumventing the situation, if it's a Bank of America or it's a JP Morgan Chase or TD, or insert any large bank name here, is virtually impossible. You can't get humans on the phone. The humans that you might get on the phone are some remote department that have nothing affected by it. And so if you're dealing with community banks, we know that if another community bank is on the other end of the interaction, we can call them, we can get someone on the phone, they can interdict, they can get in the middle of the transaction, slow it down, stop it, recover money. So think about that as you're contemplating whether you work with large banks or small banks. Technology advances. One component of what's going on in this massive amplification of fraud events is technology. The innovation that's happening cuts both ways. It certainly provides us the opportunity and tools to be able to detect fraud, but at the same time, it's giving tools to the fraudsters and the scammers to have more fraud. So it's not only accelerated over past years. As I look forward, as we look forward, I think we see it continuing on this trend. The advancement of artificial intelligence, the ability to spoof someone's voice or even video. I think the FBI special agents will talk about that more in terms of scenarios. It's starting to happen, and in response to that, Martha's Vineyard Bank is going through a massive technology transformation and investing millions of dollars on that transformation. And the reason for that is to get ahead of all this, to be able to put sentries in place, sentries, technology sentries that are watching transactions, that look at that inbound call and say, wait a minute, this phone number is not the same phone number, the mobile phone that we have on file, and they're alerted. Or the signature of this cell phone that initiated this transaction is showing up in other fraud cases elsewhere. The ability to do those kind of things is significant technology advancement. So we're invested in that, and we're moving forward into the future. And hopefully the mitigants run faster than the fraudsters' tools. But we'll see. It's fascinating what's going on right now and a little bit horrifying. So with that upbeat note, I will again introduce my friend and colleague, Bob Ogden, Dukes County Sheriff. We're proud to partner with Dukes County Sheriff's Office and the FBI to bring awareness on the issue and empower our community with knowledge. Thank you for joining us in the important work, and please join me in welcoming Sheriff Bob Ogden for a few words. Bob?
Thank you so much, James.
Sure.
Really appreciate it. We deeply appreciate the partnership with Martha's Vineyard Bank and your leadership in this role as far as elder fraud is concerned, and the broader picture of cybercrime. I think they go hand in hand in today's world, and I think that it's something that really needs to be addressed. Now, I know my boyish good looks.
I'm going to step to the side and make space for the special agents.
Is it because I said my boyish good looks?
Yeah, and now I'm going to run away.
All right. And my youthful exuberance, especially sitting next to James, who is clearly older than me. Anyways.
Bob likes to give me a hard time, always, incessantly.
Yeah. It harkens back in particular that I am not youthful. I am at an age where I actually officially hold an AARP card, and I'm knocking on the door of 60, and most of you say, oh, you're such a youngin'. But you think back to my youth, and I think about the technology of the time. In particular, remember like the first super cool technology that came out, the pager. My God. We didn't have cell phones, the pager. And when we got a call from a pager, we didn't pick up our cell phone. Where do we go? We go find a payphone, right? That cost us a dime to get a call to whoever it was, our boss or not. And you think about some of the other technologies that are out there. Entertainment, I think about that. When I was younger, you actually went to the movies or a drive-in movie, and the coolest thing that ever happened was Blockbuster, right? Remember when they actually came out with like DVDs and you could bring a movie home? How amazing is that? There was a whole library of this stuff, and it was such a great thing. It was such a motivational, inspirational thing that they moved on with this kind of entertainment. But getting home, when you went on, the Mass Pike or State Highway, you had to throw your money into the basket, right, to actually get on the highway. I always missed that darn basket, and had to look for change on the floor to actually get on the highway. And all the little things that like seem so simple then and are so archaic today in our world, and our technology is moving so fast. And the words, and the words that are used in cyber terminology that's so hard to really understand. Like we just heard spoof, right? When I think of spoof, I think about SNL and satire and some kind of joke about the latest topic in the world. Or when they talk about malware, I think about, what's the latest fashion that I was going to the Cape Cod Mall in. Or fishing, right? Get a rod and reel and go down to Big Bridge to catch a bass. But they have such nefarious meanings now in our world. And it's so hard to keep up with the technology. It's become so scary. There's nothing that we're not affected by. Like think about the United States Post Office. That's how we send information and letters and out to our family and friends and people outside the island. And you think about what's replaced that and all the issues that come along with all these things that we're starting to see go by the wayside that are part of an aging informational piece that we don't use anymore. So it's very difficult for us to actually keep in line with these things and stay in tune, especially as we grow older. For us, it becomes a scary terminology and a scary kind of thought about where we go from here and how we actually address these issues. As far as cybercrime is concerned, the elderly are just not alone in this. Technology is growing so fast, we all age out in a matter of months with this information. In particular, they just made a report, the FTC made a report the other day that said that $16 billion in revenue is lost this past year, 2024, to cybercrime. I mean, that's amazing to think that way. And one of the most vulnerable groups is the elderly population. The problem being is that they are also the most underreported group. They do not report crimes. They're embarrassed or scared or don't understand what's being sent to them or done to them. And, the way that things work today so fast and the technology, the cyber criminals are moving at the same pace exponentially with the technology. And if we don't keep up with it, and if we don't think about what's going on around us, we can become vulnerable to it, all of us. Not just the elderly group of people in this room, but all of us. And we need to be vigilant. And that's why we have these people to come and talk to us, because honestly, knowledge is power. And through it, our greatest advantage over this crime and this issue that's happening to us all. So with that, I'd like to say thank you so much to everybody in the room that's come, our law enforcement community that deals with these issues day to day, our chief from Edgartown that's come out today. We see this all the time, and it's just devastating to see how families have been ripped apart, especially elderly families that have lost a lot in their lives because of these cyber criminals. And we want to make sure that you take every advantage of what kind of information we can provide through a law enforcement and partnership with our banking and financial group. We're here to help you and support you, but we need your input. We need you to come to us and speak to us and not be afraid. We're here together. We're here with you, and we want to support you. And with saying that, I would like to introduce a great guy from my department. He's the head of our public relations and community service outreach. He runs the Triad program. Project Lifesaver. He does Meals on Wheels. He's just a great guy as far as the elderly community is concerned, and I'm sure most of you know him. You can't miss him. He's like, what are you, like 6'7" or something like that? As a 5'9", I'm just like, he just reaches over me. Anyways, I'd like to say thank you to not only the FBI and local group, but my guy that's, we've gotten this together for us today in support. In closing, I'd kind of like to just say to you, if you see something, say something. If something's not right in your life, or you get a text that's not right, or someone tries to influence you to spend money, say something. We are here to help you and support you in any way we can. By the end of the day, you will have those resources. We're here 24/7, and we're always here to help you. So with that, I'd like to introduce my partner in crime, Sterling Bishop.
Thank you. Thank you, Sheriff. Good morning, everyone. Thank you guys for being in attendance today. Thank you to our law enforcement brothers and sisters who came out. The information that we're going to share today is going to be vital for everyone involved. It's not just for our elders in our community, it's not just for law enforcement, it's for friends, for families. So the intent is we provide this information and hopefully you guys can share this amongst your respective communities and families as well. The first program that I'm going to be talking about today is called Project Lifesaver. Some of you may be familiar with it, especially law enforcement. And thank you guys, as a side note, for all those referrals. So keep sending folks my way. And for the individuals that are not aware of this program, it is very, very helpful. It's a national program that actually assists in bringing elders home. So we provide these services free, of course, to the community. Thank you to generous donations and support from our Dukes County Sheriff's Association. These programs are free to the community and very, very helpful. The way this actually works is that we would meet with an individual, equip them either on a wrist or an ankle with this small device. And if that individual happens to stray away from home, walk away from home, forget where they are, who they are, we get a call at our Regional Emergency Communications Center, and we're dispatched to assist with the help from local law enforcement to find that person. And the reason being that when we have to search for someone, timing is very, very critical. This device allows us to find someone. It actually takes away from some of the resources, because if we didn't have it, it would spend maybe 30, 40 minutes, an hour, couple hours trying to locate someone. So I'd like to give you guys a little bit more information about this program, tell you a little bit what it means, where it comes from, and how to actually get to be a part of it. Did it work? There it is. Nice job, thank you. I love technology when it works. All right, so Project Lifesaver is a national program. It's a 501c3 community-based public safety nonprofit organization. Now that's a lot, but it's typically free to anyone who would like to be involved. And it's a program that's designed to protect and to help our seniors when necessary and quickly locate individuals diagnosed with cognitive diseases such as Alzheimer's or dementia. We also will provide that program for families in need, maybe with kids with autism or high-risk behaviors that might lead them to wander away from home. Oh, I think that went back. There we go. So just kind of refreshing that, the participants will wear this bracelet. Depending on the individual, sometimes they prefer to have it on a wrist or ankle, especially if that person's diagnosed with dementia or Alzheimer's. It can be a little irritated, and sometimes the caregiver, family member, may decide an ankle might be more helpful, a wrist might be more helpful. It is 100% waterproof, so you can go swimming, hot tub, showers, beach, and it's safe. The only time that this device should be removed from a participant is when I get to visit, do a welfare check, change the battery, talk to the caregiver, and make sure the program is working, the device is functioning, and there are no questions. Currently, right now, I believe we only have about 3 or 4 technically, participants on the program. I'm sure that there are more individuals in the community that you guys could probably point a finger to or locate and say, hey, this might be helpful. And again, it is 100% free. Nice. The program has fast and reliable tracking. The way this works is that this device emits a frequency, a low-level radio frequency, and I get to use my excited to use it. It's kind of like a Batman thing. But the way the system works is that this device tunes into that individual frequency, and within a 1-mile radius, we can locate that person. I would say maybe about the average person walks about 4 miles per hour. And again, it echoes the fact that timing is critical. So if you have a loved one who happens to stray or wander away from home and you cannot locate them, the best course of action is to contact 911 immediately. That way we can respond in time and locate that loved one and bring them home. I've been involved in maybe about 4 It's been all successful. All successful. And the amount of gratitude that the sheriff's office receives from locating a loved one, it's immeasurable. So, how do we get involved? I'm glad that law enforcement brothers and sisters are here today because you guys do an amazing job with this. If there's any individual that you're aware of that might need this program or might fit this program, please feel free to reach out. You can contact me directly via email. You can go to our website, dukescountysheriff.com, and we have our community outreach portal where you can submit your name and you can apply for the program digitally, and I promise I will call you and follow up. And you can actually reach out to your local law enforcement, your local council on aging, and get a little bit more information or have them be a speaker for you and make that referral. Nice. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about our second community outreach program today that we'd like to represent, and it's part of our National Triad Initiative. Now, Triad is typically an agreement or a partnership between law enforcement, elderly individuals, and the programs in the communities where they reside that actually are built to support them, such as a Center for Living, a Council on Aging, elderly services, Meals on Wheels, things like that, that we kind of take this three-pronged approach and try to support our elders in our community as much as possible. And so our component of this Triad program is called We Have Your Number. And it looks a little something like this. I don't know if you guys have ever seen these red signs in front of homes. If you have not, once I showed it to you and you drive down this island or these streets, you're gonna say, oh, this is what he was talking about. I've installed approximately 450 of these signs throughout this island. And I can probably speak on behalf of law enforcement when I say it's very helpful. When you go down a dirt road a mile off of a main road and it's an emergency and it's the middle of the night and you have to locate a home, these red reflective signs are very, very helpful because we know in an emergency, minutes are crucial and it can actually save lives. And so with our We Have Your Number program, it works very similar to Project Lifesaver as far as getting involved and getting signed up for the program. And again, it's 100% free to members in our community, and it's very, very easy to get signed up. So one way you can actually do this is, again, through our website, contacting us through dukescountysheriff.com. I'm going to put my phone number out there. Should I put my phone number out there?
Doesn't matter to me.
You guys can contact me directly in my office, 508-338-7591. I'll say it again, 508-338-7591. Please feel free to contact me directly. If it's your home, the home of a neighbor, the home of a family member, someone that might be considered maybe medically compromised, I would say, who might need services sooner than later. And in case of an emergency, please feel free to contact us and let us know. And we'll be out to install these signs that are easily visible in front of their homes to make sure, in case of an emergency, we can find those individuals and provide services that are necessary. On the table over to my left, there are a couple of applications. The application looks very similar to this little cutout over here. It's simple, name, address, phone number, and once that is installed, it goes back to our regional emergency communication center, our rec center, and which is actually our 911 dispatchers. So they have notifications on which houses have signs. If there's an emergency and they're going to dispatch first responders, police, fire, EMS, they can say, hey, take a look for the red sign, look for the address sign, day or night. It's very helpful and it's crucial to our community. And it's not just for elders. I've had someone call me about maybe having a child at home that have been diagnosed with with autism, and that child decided to run out or display some high-risk behaviors. So it's very helpful, and we are honored to participate with other programs in our community and provide these services. And again, they're 100% free, and they're very, very helpful. So, are there any questions on how to get involved or how to get support from the Dukes County Sheriff's Office with some of our community outreach programs? Absolutely, go ahead.
Sorry, I was a little late, I apologize.
It's okay.
Did you discuss the program where a tracking device is available for the older adults?
I did. So that's
I'm
our,
from the Council on Aging in Edgartown, so I am familiar with it, but I just wanted to make sure that it's covered today.
oh, absolutely. I actually spoke with, who was Bill Glazer? Bill? Very, very interesting gentleman who is passionate about providing support for individuals in his community. And if there are any further questions, my information is on the table. Yes?
Oh, hi, I'm Cindy Trish from Healthy Aging Martha's Vineyard, and I have a question about that particular program. It sounds like an amazing program, but beyond that, we have a significant need for identifying individuals who have fallen. And I know, and we're looking at different technology solutions. I'm just curious if there's ever been any application or extension of that program to be able to identify someone who hasn't moved versus who is moving.
Unfortunately, we do not have that. This program is very limited to search and rescue.
Okay, thank you.
There are other technologies out there
Yeah.
to provide support for slips and falls, but we kind of focus on bringing people home safely.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I know you guys are excited, because I am. There's a lot more information coming, and we are honored to partner with the FBI. And today in attendance, we've got special agents that's going to bring you some information that's going to be vital around elder fraud and some of the scams that our seniors in our community are experiencing. So please welcome these lovely individuals to join us today.
Thank you, everybody, for having us. I'm a special agent with the FBI, and I've been there my entire career, so about 21 years, and worked a variety of violations, and now focusing more on white-collar crimes and cyber and elder fraud-related investigations.
Hello, everyone. Thank you again for having us here. Especially with the FBI, I've been on for about 18 years or so. First office was in New York, where I mainly worked organized crime, and then finally got back home to Massachusetts, where I did a lot of financial crime stuff now, where I'm doing now. And I feel like one of the most important things we can probably be doing is just outreach community for financial stuff. So I feel like, very grateful to be able to have the opportunity to come out here and speak to everyone regarding this. So thank you again.
Yep. So what we're going to do, we're going to tell you or explain a little bit about the fraud schemes that we're seeing. We'll try to give you some examples of cases that we've had and how it's affected victims, and then at the end hopefully have some time for questions, because the most important thing is just to understand the scams that are out there, so when you see them start to experience things, maybe you take a moment and say, maybe I need to talk to someone to see if this makes sense of what's going on. So here, let me see. Yep, okay. All right, so this is what we're going to go over today. The goals of the presentation, we want you to be able to know your risks, kind of know who's being targeted by these fraud schemes, what the bad guys may be doing. We want you to see the red flags, so if someone is asking you for money or something very early on, maybe you can stop for a second and say, in the real world, in my life up until this point, have I been in this situation and has someone asked me for money? Does this make sense? To be able to realize when things are underway that maybe you should talk to a banking official, talk to a trusted friend, talk to the police, and try to stop a fraud if you think it's already in progress. And then we'll talk about prevention. If you're seeing it happening to you or someone else, obviously we want you to know the signs so you can start to prevent things if you identify some red flags. And then also to get involved. So if you are a victim of a fraud scheme, we want you to know what to do next. These are some of our topics. We're going to go over the statistics, which I think are going to be pretty astounding, because it was alluded to before that elder fraud, or just fraud in general, is very much underreported, and you're going to see that in a moment. We're going to define what elder fraud is. We'll talk about how to prevent elders from, and it's not just elders, let's be frank, it's everybody can be a victim of a fraud scheme. You know, the amount of text messages that I get on a daily basis, I could fall victim of them, but you just have to learn to delete and move on. And then what to do, who to call, and then obviously we'll go over questions at the end.
You guys can only hear me right off mic, is that okay? So statistics, let's talk about why we're actually here, right? Why we think this is such a big problem. 4 out of 10 seniors being victimized, right? That's a huge number, especially here in Massachusetts. I think on average wise, like population here, elderly is a little bit higher than most of the country. So we have, as far as for the scammers, fraudsters, there's a lot of opportunity out here. Okay, so that's a pretty big number. As far as what gets reported, on average, 1 out of 20. Right, so I think the sheriff mentioned that earlier. If you don't report it, we don't know about it. So you have to report that. And that's one reason why we're out here doing the outreach, because we want you to feel comfortable in that it's okay, that you're not the only one that has been victimized. So we want to make sure we get out there so you can talk to us and kind of talk about this problem. I know it's very difficult to speak of and talk about, but 1 out of 20, obviously it's a very low reported crime. You see, for a lot of it, over the age of 60. So as far as for what we do, that's considered elderly over the age of 60. We had 120,000 complaints, and that's just for elderly over 60. Total loss being $8.5 billion, which is a lot. Next slide, we'll kind of go over as far as breaking down where each one was. So as you can see, this is going from February 2025, going down to February 2024, so about a year. We're talking in millions, just in the Boston area of just the over 60 population. That's it. So as you can see, those losses are astronomical. Those are realized losses. That's not a reported loss. Which reported loss is even higher than that. So a reported loss, something they could potentially have lost, say $500,000, but they only got, say, $100,000. So it's unfortunately we get some of it back, but that's realized loss right there. As far as top scams by victims, we'll kind of go into a little more details on all of these, but phishing and spoofing, reached out 464 victims. Cryptocurrency, which is where we see probably not as many victims, but the highest amount of losses, usually come in the form of cryptocurrency. And that comes in various scams, but a lot of it will be in investment scams. And we'll kind of talk about how funds get from, fiat currency and its way making up to cryptocurrency, just so you guys can see the kind of, the roadmap of where the flow of funds take. Tech support scam, that's kind of a big one that I think everyone's probably had at some point, where I'm sure if I asked who had a pop-ups, come up on their screen, I'm sure at least half is going to say, yeah, I've had that Microsoft pop-up come on my screen. Investment scams, non-payment, non-delivery, again, that's more for, we see a lot of someone coming to the house saying they need to do work, do a coat on the driveway or siding or roofing. They pretend to be from maybe another company, but all they're really looking for is kind of like that down payment. Maybe they never return ever again, or maybe they come, just do a little bit and then leave. Confidence, romance scams. So romance scams, obviously that's kind of intermingles with everything else that's kind of going on. And then lastly is the personal data breaches.
So these statistics are, it says from IC3. IC3 is the Internet Crime Complaint Center. So anytime you have a fraud scheme that deals with the internet or you've been defrauded, we're going to go through the next steps of things to do, but one of the first things we're going to do is to ask for the victim to file an IC3 complaint. We want the victims to put as much information in the IC3 complaint as possible, because that's the first report we're gonna get from any victim. And if a wire has just happened or money has just been transferred, we're gonna use that information to immediately start trying to get the money back. So the more details you can provide, that's gonna help us to try to recover funds very quickly. So these are all statistics just from the IC3 complaints.
Yep, and to kind of go along with that, as far as when we talk about reporting, IC3 is kind of a big one for us. It's just ic3.gov to file to complain. It's pretty straightforward. But with that, you can call, obviously, you have your local departments that you can contact as well. And also, we're out of Lakeville, FBI Boston, we have a sub-office in Lakeville, and that's kind of where we're out of. You can give us a call as well. A lot of times what we'll see is, maybe there'll be an IC3 complaint, but there'll be like a follow-up phone call or something like that. Because as you can imagine, we do get a lot of these. Sometimes phone call can't hurt either. Other ways, obviously, I think somebody mentioned before, is frontline defense as far as the bank's concerned, right? That's another, when you go into the tellers, they see this all the time. So they have like the signs and telltale signs where they kind of get an idea of something's a little bit off, because typically all of us have like some sort of pattern. So if something goes a little bit different, some questions will be asked and stuff like that. So, talking to your bank about it too. And I know a lot of these fraudsters, they kind of coach all the victims on what to do and what to say, and they kind of expect that stuff. But be amenable to talking to those people that you're actually face-to-face with. Another, community centers, your town community centers, your friends and family. Those are really big people you need to kind of talk to kind of discuss kind of what's going on and what you've been doing and stuff like that. And then more importantly is the timeliness of it. Obviously the timeliness of it is for your financial part of it. But as far as, we kind of treat things kind of like three prongs eventually. But first one is obviously make sure the victim's okay. We do have like victim services that we always provide our victims. First and foremost, we want to make sure they're doing okay. We understand being a victim of a fraud is very personal, and sometimes can be extremely difficult to talk about. So that's one way we kind of, we want to tackle it. And the second one is finances, right? You just sent, some money that's yours that you want to try to get back. So we want to do our best to try to get that back for you. And then the third one is investigatively, right? So that's a little bit more, takes a little bit longer to do. So it's just why if we can try to get your funds back, we try to do that first. And then we kind of work on the investigative process and then afterwards. So financial fraud and abuse. So obviously, they're after one of two things, right? The first thing is going to be financial. They know that, as far as either having access to financials or your own financial is really what they want. And it doesn't necessarily mean that, if you have, whether actually 401 or something in your bank account, obviously that's what they're going to want to go after. But they also know you have a home, you have credit cards. There's ways of accessing money that they know of. So they will push you and guide you to those areas once you've exhausted, everything that you have. And not only that, once they kind of go through that, they'll start asking you to ask your friends and your families. They'll push as much as they can to get you to that financial source as much as possible. And again, it can happen with strangers and people others know. It's it's very opportunistic. These scams that happen, they're not specifically targeting you, say, you specifically. They do have a lot of information about you when the scam is going. But just understand, it's usually, maybe something happened in your life, and you don't have access to someone to talk to, and then this person all of a sudden shows up in your life. A lot of time it's right, it was just opportunity. It just so happens that, we just lost a loved one that we spent every single day talking to. Now we don't have that access anymore. Now someone just kind of fills that gap in, and everything they're telling you, you're kind of taking in. And at that point, it's very difficult to win you back. So the game plan for fraudsters, obviously make the victim fearful and emotional. Depending on what the scam is, they want you to make decisions, irrational decisions through stress, right? They want to create some type of environment that you can't really think straight. That's what they want to do. As far as the romance scams, they're in it for the long game. So when you're meeting some of these people, like online, they're not for the most part gonna ask you to start sending money day one. They wanna build that relationship, build that trust, so that when they send you into that bank and they tell you, hey, this is what the bank's gonna tell you and ask you, this is what you're gonna tell them, they know exactly what the playbook's gonna be. And they do, they rehearse that with them. And if it's going on for a few months, if you try to like, talk to the victim about that, like, oh no, that person you're talking to, that person's a scammer. They're gonna get mad at you. They just spent 6 months, going back and forth on a daily basis where they gave every single, minute of their time to this person. Everyone else, whatever they say doesn't mean anything. So it's very difficult to work through that, which is why this is something that we have to work as a group together. It's not just something one person can do. It has to come from all different facets. Whether it's from your local police department, from us, or from your bank. It's kind of like a team fight to kind of target this stuff or fight this stuff. So kind of like requiring a decision, depending on what the scam is. They want you to make a decision out of fear. Because once you have that fear instilled, obviously you're not making a really rational decision. Isolating the victim, one of the first things they try to tell you is you can't tell anyone about this. You can't tell friends, you can't tell families, do not tell your bank, don't tell police, because they know, like once you start talking about this to someone else, that someone else is gonna be like, wait a second, like this isn't right, and they're gonna walk you through why that doesn't sound right. So that's why it's super important for them to try to isolate that victim. And they do a really good job of it. It's not something they do just, one time and they're done. They're doing this every single day. Every single day. And demand payment by untraceable means. So, that typically means like, if they can, they want to get the money out of the financial, the U.S. banking system, right? Because with that comes some regulations and, so there's some things we can do with that. So they want to try and get those funds out of that system so they have a little bit more control over it. That could be in a form of gift cards or cryptocurrency or buying, precious metals, things like that. So their goal is they understand that sometimes wiring funds isn't going to work. So they want to get that out of that system into different means.
All right, so we're going to switch up a little bit. So know where the risks are. So these fraud schemes are going to happen by any means possible, right? So maybe you're going to get a flyer in the mail saying you just won the lottery. Maybe someone's going to contact you online. You have a Facebook profile and someone's going to say that they remember you from high school, but they don't, like you really don't remember them. A scammer just trying to find ways in order to start to build those relationships. You're going to randomly get a phone call. And it could be that they were trying to reach someone else and they're like, oh, but after speaking with you for a few minutes, you sound really nice. Maybe I'll talk to you about the investment opportunity that I had for Rita, who I was really trying to call, but you're not Rita, but that's okay. Oh, or in person. These are all the ways. It doesn't matter. The sky is the limit when you're a fraudster. You can find a way to get things done if you want. So we're going to go over some of these common scams. One of the things that I just want to reiterate, like important in life is to have that trusted friend or family member that you bounce ideas off of. One of the things that I think is going to be very important for us going forward with the advent of all these new fraud schemes, doesn't matter what your age is, have that friend or person that you're willing to be like, hey, someone just called me and told me about this opportunity to invest. Does it sound right? Find someone to be able to bounce those ideas off of, so when your little, something in the back of your mind is kind of going off saying it doesn't seem right, you have someone to talk about it with before you continue on and maybe lose some money. So some of the common scams, lottery or sweepstakes scams. So we've all played Mega Millions and Powerball, right? Like, they're not going to call you to tell you you won the lottery and then ask for you to pay taxes. You're not going to get the money unless the taxes are taken out. So a lot of instances, I know the Publishers Clearinghouse back in the day, you could apply online. I had a case, it was a lottery network. A gentleman received something in the mail. By the time he came to our office in Lakeville, he had been talking to the scammers for 3 years. He was already $800,000 in, because after he got the flyer in the mail, which said he won, let's say he won 1.5 million, he had to pay the taxes up front. So he gathered some of his life savings, right? And he's talking to the fraudster every day. So after he initially got the flyer in the mail, there was a telephone number, he started talking to someone. He talked to that individual more than once a day, every day for several years. So he comes in, he lost a lot of money. He started to think that maybe something was wrong because he kept paying taxes. Then after he paid taxes, there was another reason, for him to pay other fees, and he still hasn't gotten his lottery winnings. So I started to participate in some of the calls with him, with the bad guy. And it is just interesting how no matter what roadblock you put in front of the fraudster in order to say why, as a victim, you can't send the money, they're gonna pivot and come up with another means for you to try to send the money or another reason for you to send the money. So we ended up working that case together, and ultimately this was a fraud scheme that was run out of Jamaica, and ended up talking to those people, and then when we were not sending any more money, we ended up talking to the fraudster's supervisors, so we started to go up the chain, and fortunately we were able to identify some of the bad actors. But in order for that victim to stop making those phone calls, so once we get involved, he could only make the phone calls when I was with him. And I was obviously trying to wean him off of making those phone calls. He had gotten so used to calling that subject, or the perpetrator every day, that he kept asking me, can we call them more? I'm missing that interaction with the subject. And that's what they do. These guys, this is a long-term fraud scheme. So this person was calling that victim several times a day and building that trust, building that need in order to be able to keep asking for money. And that's what they do. So in the end, he never won the lottery. He never got any money from the lottery, but he ended up essentially going through his whole life savings. So he had a business, he ended up having to, he lost the business because of the funds, and ended up having to go back to work in his 80s. So that's not what we want. And just think, a lot of these fraud schemes are targeting a certain population, because by that point, when we're getting older, we've worked so long and hard, saved all of our money for retirement, and the bad guys know that. They know that you have the means, and they essentially want to have what you've worked so hard for. So so the lottery scam, they're gonna keep changing why there's taxes, why there's fees, and ultimately it's a bad day. Phishing scams, if you've gotten any emails that look very similar to emails of people that you know, but maybe there's a letter or a number off, those can be phishing scams. They try to get you to click on links. If you get an email from someone you don't know, just delete it. The goal is, bad guys are trying to get you to click on links so then they can get access to your computers. If anyone online, if there's any pop-up messages that look official, look like from Martha's Vineyard Savings Bank or maybe Bank of America, whoever you actually bank with, these are going to be pop-ups that are going to try to get you to click on them. And in some instances, it's going to lead to a telephone number that is the telephone number for the bad guy, not for your bank. So if you ever get any information online where there's a telephone number, I would do independent research and look it up to see if you can find the actual number for a bank or whatever entity this is, because they're going to be directing you to the bad guys, the bad actors that are going to pretend to be from the bank or from another entity, and they're going to give you instructions on what you need to do because a problem is before you. Maybe there's an issue with your account. So in order to resolve the issue, we need you to install TeamViewer. TeamViewer is a way for the bad guy to access your computer. There's always going to be a reason, something bad, they're going to say something bad has happened to you. Either your account has been compromised or something bad is going to happen to you unless you do this. And we just need to think about that and independently confirm telephone numbers and things like that. And then, there's a lot of scams in which there'll be pop-ups or something in which they'll say maybe your computer will be locked, and they'll say, you know, something has been installed on your computer, here's a telephone number to call in order to pay, in order to get access back to your computer. Anytime any of this happens, you need to talk to your trusted friend. You need to think about, is it something I should call the local police for? Do I need to reach out to the FBI? Should I be going to IC3? Before you panic, take a step back and figure out what the next step should be.
So just to add a little bit more on the, just kind of some personal views on the phishing scams. Just kind of like, so what does that really look like? I think what we typically see on a daily basis, right, which we see pretty much on a weekly, is just kind of keep in mind that the fraudsters typically have an idea of what you have already. They kind of know where you bank and stuff like that. They know enough about you so that, you know, when they get you on the phone, they're gonna just go ahead and say A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and all of it's gonna be true about you. And you're like, oh my goodness, this person knows a lot about me. So right then, you're kind of on your heels now. You're already thinking a little bit off because someone knows all this about me, and they're telling me that I just, you know, had like a fraudulent charge. So let's say, you know, for example, you get like a typical, like an email, like a text message or something like that, saying, hey, looks like there was a fraudulent Apple charge on your account. Please, you know, call to verify if the charge is complete or not, or accurate or not. And of course, the number you're going to call is a fraudulent number, right? So, but again, they'll call, you'll call, and like, oh yeah, I see, you know, you bank with here. They need to get you on the phone. Once they get you on the phone, they're kind of already going to start their routine. They have this routine all in place. They say, oh, we see you have a charge, like an Apple charge. It was fraudulent, but hey, don't worry about it. We took care of it. We blocked it, so it's not going to hit your account. Of course, so that's kind of like, you know, the fish they kind of get you in. The second part to that, though, is going to be, but it looks like, you know, your social security number, there's a red flag on your social security number. Did you, it appears that your identity is being used for all kinds of fraudulent activity, to include, you know, a big one is like drug trafficking. To mean like, you know, there were drug seized like on the south border with your names on it. And now this is where they start giving you a little bit of stress. Right now it's, hey, you have a warrant out for your arrest because of this information. This is all on one phone call. So as you can imagine, someone who's not thinking right, hearing that stuff, they're kind of like, oh, what do I do here? What do I need to do? And they know exactly what to do. So they're going to coach you every step of the way. So what is it that they want? They want your financials, right? So with your identity being stolen, so the next thing they're going to say is, hey, we're investigating this money laundering network, so we want to protect your assets. So to protect your assets, here's what I need you to do. I know you bank at so-and-so. I need you to go to your bank, withdraw that cash out. And, you know, after that gets a little bit different as far as what they tell you to do, but it'll either go into like cryptocurrency, or they'll have you, it's a little bit more common now, is they'll have you go buy precious metals like gold bars. And, you know, with that, they present, oh, we have a courier that's going to come up, you know, and pick this stuff up for you. They'll provide you a nice official letter from, you know, Department of Treasury saying we have a, you know, a locker for you that we're going to protect all your assets for. They have it all there, all official. They'll send you a copy of a warrant that, it's not a warrant by any means. But it's all there just to kind of put that stress on you so that you're making irrational decisions. So once they get to that point and you start doing that, again, so you'll go to the bank now and be like, hey, I need to do a wire transfer, I need to withdraw of $20,000. They know exactly what questions they're going to ask you. A lot of times they'll keep you on the phone so that they know what you're doing. But a lot of times they'll say, hey, you know, because of, you know, the markets are these days, we want you to invest in precious metals, so just let them know, hey, this is to purchase gold. Or this is to buy a car, or for whatever it is. They're going to have a reason for you so that when you get there, they want you to just be like, hey, I knew this person was going to ask me these questions. They're kind of like, you know, this is my money, and here's someone asking questions. That's what it makes it feel like. It's almost like it's a friction between, you know, the teller and the customer, because they know exactly what they're going to ask. So they prepared them for it so that when someone questions them on it, they're kind of like, that's not, why are you questioning? It's my money, you can't do that. So that's kind of like what it looks like. That's a progression of it. The scams, the general scams are all different to start, but as far as getting to the financial part, that's pretty much all the same. It's the playbook for them, getting that money out of the bank and into their hands.
Yeah, and remember, no one's gonna tell you that there's a warrant for arrest. Like law enforcement, we're not gonna call you and be like, hey, you got a warrant. it's not gonna happen that way. So just if you're starting to hear that, it's one of those things, they're trying to make you scared. They're trying to make you make a decision quickly. How many things in life do we have to make a split-minute decision? Take a second, talk to your trusted friend, think about what's going on, tell the caller, you know what, I need a second, let me get a number to call you back. And then you need to start, talking to someone that you're close with and figuring out if this makes sense. So we can go into some.
It's coming back up.
Oh, okay. So the next thing we're going to talk about is romance scams. So obviously, a lot of people meet online these days. So our romance scams are often starting out online. Plenty of Fish, Mingle, like sky is the limit in regards to online dating. A lot of the victims are meeting someone online, and pretty shortly after that, whoever they're speaking to, if it's a fraud scheme, they're directing them to another communication method. So something that really has trouble being traced. So they're saying, let's talk on WhatsApp, let's talk on Telegram, let's talk on another application to get away from the initial application where you met. And it's kind of like the bad guys have the practice of you're initially meeting, they're going to transfer you to a more encrypted source of communication. They're going to build that relationship with you, and then they're going to start asking for money. And it's always going to be a very attractive person that you're communicating with because they've shown you the best pictures that they can find online. So whether you're male or female, they're going to take a little bit of time, they're going to get to know you, try to figure out what you like, and then they're going to focus the conversation to be the perfect man or woman of your dreams based on them listening to you. And they do have a playbook. So like if you have a profile picture of a certain, photo, they know what they need to do in order to make that relationship better. So they're going to get you to a different application to start communicating with you, and then most likely they're going to talk about wanting to meet you, but maybe they're in the military and they got caught up somewhere else. They're going to start asking for money. So the impressive job is going to be, you're going to have a picture of a very attractive man, let's say. He's going to be in the military, or he's an offshore driller or something. It's going to be something that's going to impress you, but it's also something that's going to make him far away, that he's not accessible to you, which is going to allow the fraudster to come up with a lot of reasons why they can't meet you in person. And they're going to ask for that money. And it's going to start small. There's going to be a reason that they need money, and it's going to start small, and over time they're going to build this relationship, and they're going to ask for larger amounts of money. Pretty much we see these once a week coming into our office, and they range from, a fraud scheme that's been going on for years that someone might be out $300,000, or they might be out several million. These, everybody loves love, right? They maybe, as we get older, we haven't found our right person and we just want to have someone to spend time with. Everybody longs to have companionship, and that's what the fraudsters are doing. They're just trying to focus in on the thing that everybody wants.
And these are probably the most difficult, in a sense, to investigate, only because by the time someone gets to us from a romance scam, they're pretty involved in it, or in that point. What I mean by that is, they probably met the person or spoke to the person for, this could be 6 months to years, just kind of building that relationship. And just understand that that is what is in their plan. That's what they're coached to do, is they want to build that foundation, and they will spend as much time as needed to do that. And just understand, it's not just one person talking to you, right? Maybe on the phone it could be one, but for the most part, you have a team of people, of fraudsters, who are working against you 24/7, so that there's never going to be a dull moment. And never not going to be, that awesome love letter that you got online or a text message that just obviously would brighten anyone's day. Like if I see that on a daily basis, it'd be great. But that's what they're doing. They're not asking you for that money right away. They're slowly building that up. They're giving you that little carrot at the end, saying, "Honey, when I see you in 6 months, we're going to be so happy. We're going to be retired. We're going to have all this kinds of money." And they're gonna make it seem like it's the greatest thing in the world. I mean, it sounds like it is half the time, but again, like she's saying that they'll start off small, kind of requesting money. And what are they requesting for? So a lot of it is just gonna be smaller things, like if someone's, somewhere they're digging for diamond or something like that. Oh, they need money for their equipment. Hey, I just need, a couple $1,000, drill broke, whatever, I just need some help with that. Times are tough, I just need some, housing, I got stuck at the airport. So it's really small things like that, but you add that for a year and a half, 2 years, you're sending thousands of dollars on a weekly basis. You pretty much become immune to it. So that's what they're trying to do. They're slowly, in this scam, that they're slowly kind of like withdrawing your funds, but they're also preparing you for other things as well too. As being a victim of something, you can send money obviously as a victim, but you can also receive money, right? So after someone's built that relationship with you, they may find like, hey, this person might be great at moving money. So this guy who is, a businessman has, a company that's in investments and they have hundreds of investors. What are they gonna say? They're gonna say, hey, I have people who are gonna be sending you money because I'm an investment person. So when you start seeing these cash deposits or wire transfers into your account, they already know, oh, this is for, the person I met, and this is for his investment company. So what are they gonna have that person do then? Then they'll start cleaning it through our financial system, and then eventually, get to where they want to go. But they want that person to kind of essentially clean the money out, right? They don't want themselves to do it. They want someone else to do it. That's exactly what. So there's two plates for how they use victims, right? One is financially. The two, which is just as important for them, is moving the money within the U.S. system, right? Because the red flags aren't as high when it's going from U.S. person to U.S. person versus if it's going to U.S. person to overseas or something like that. Or especially someone has like, a very historical banking, then it's a little bit easier for them. So just keep that in mind. Like, wow, why are these people sending me money? Like these individuals, just kind of think about that. And that obviously that can cause a lot of problems too, as far as like tax and stuff like that. As far as what we're supposed to report. So just please be aware. It's not just financially and sending money. It's just you can also be used as a way to move money out as well.
There's a lot of jobs online that are like make money fast. All you have to do is receive cash and then send it on, and they'll come up with something that they think is a legitimate reason. Some of those people are the money mules that are actually moving money along from victims of romance scams or lottery scams or other things. So we just have to think about when you're looking for jobs, if something is too good to be true, let's think about that, talk to a trusted friend. Does this make sense what I'm doing? And just to go back to, like Brian said, romance scams are super hard for us because by the time the victim comes into our office, it's several years later, and they're still not 100% sure that they're a victim. So even though they're like, I've already sent this amount of money to the bad guy, but they want me to send more, like they're still on the fence. And they kind of want to still send the money because they've been in this for so long, it has to be true. And a lot of that is just talking them through and getting them victim resources to let them know that they have been being victimized.
And then the last couple, as far as after, we'll get into a little bit more about investment scams in a little bit. But like business email compromises, obviously that's a really big one because with a business, what you're thinking of larger wire transactions. So that's one that they typically love to try to get into, but that takes a little bit more work to get to, right? They have to pretty much identify like a business they want to try to get. Let's say we're doing like a real estate investment or you're purchasing a house, right? So they want to try to get in the middle of that. Like that's what they want to do. They want to be able to get those wire instructions in, the fraudulent ones, so that the wire goes out to the wrong thing. So how does that work? So essentially what they try to do is they'll target a business for that matter, right? They'll target someone with that business who has access or makes decisions on the financials. And what they'll want to try to do is, that's where the phishing will come in. They'll send them like emails and all kinds of stuff. So hopefully, they're clicking on so they get their systems compromised. So once they get their system compromised, what they'll tend to do is they'll put rules. So if you go in your emails, you can set rules within your email. And in that, you can say, hey, anything I get from, say, Sarah, please forward to this new email address. So if we're doing a business transaction, and it gets sent to Sarah, she'll never see it because the rule's gonna kick it to me, right? So when it gets to me, I'm gonna respond back with a fraudulent domain, essentially email address. And what it's gonna look like, it's gonna look very similar to what her email address is. I may change, the last letter or add something in there in between, just so I can kind of mix it up. Because when we're doing these transactions, maybe we didn't look at it thoroughly. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm gonna reroute that email with my domain, my email address, and I'm gonna put my wire instructions in there, because I want, the person to send the money to me. So that's kind of like the business email compromises, what they wanna try to do. They wanna try to get in the middle of a transaction between two people. And I think that kind of falls in line with real estate scams. The typical, and I guess these would fall into someone who's obviously a realtor, but also I think a lot of lawyers too as well, because there's a lot of stuff that's done online now, and you can contact a realtor and say, hey, I'm looking to sell this property, and don't even see the person, but what they'll do is they'll try to make that transaction go through, give them fraudulent wiring instructions, and they're just really looking for that down payment, right? They just want to get those funds any way they can, and that's kind of been popular too, at least that we've been seeing a lot of. So these they're much different than like romance scams. They're kind of, it's usually within a day, at least for like the grandparent scam, these things. These are the ones where they cause, they really want you to make a decision, an emotional decision. So they'll get you on the phone, pretending to be, they can spoof your number. So if I'm calling you, I can call you, and what'll show up will be, police department. That's what will show up, the number will show up for them. But I'm not calling from them, right? I'm just spoofing it. I'm saying, hey, someone's been arrested or someone's got injured, and you need to pay their, the bond to get them out. And so they're doing it. They're making a decision all stressed out. And I guess what I would say to that is, whenever you get a call like that, hang up, obviously, but always confirm. Call the police department, like, hey, I got a call from so-and-so saying that, they got arrested. Is that true? And they'll tell you, no, that's not true. So just keep that in mind. You can always, like Sarah said, just take a step back, realize who's calling you, find that number independently, and contact that place again to confirm, is this real or not?
And then the grandparent scam, so I'm sure you've heard about these, is, someone will get a call saying their grandson has been in an accident or arrested, and there's some kind of urgency and need for the grandparent to send the money. When that happens, like, what we recommend is, obviously they're trying to get you to make a split-second decision, take a step back, get the information from the caller, get a number to call back, and then call your grandson, granddaughter, whoever, and try to verify what's going on, because it's all part of a fraud scheme. But one thing I would say, so through the Elder Fraud Initiative, through the Department of Justice, we're often doing presentations with the U.S. Attorney's Office and the IRS. And one of the things that we cover a lot is the IRS. A lot of people get calls from the IRS. People are always scared of the IRS. You don't want the IRS knocking on your door, right? But they'll be receiving phone calls saying that they owe taxes or things like that, also trying to get urgency in order to get funds. The IRS is not going to call you, all right? I'll go forward to another slide. So this is what you do. If you get a call from the IRS, I can guarantee it's not the IRS. Get information in regards to, get information about the caller, but don't give the caller information about you. Write down all the details of what that caller is saying, and then hang up. And then down below, that's a legitimate number, 800-829-1040. That's the number you can call. I actually had to call that this tax season, and the friendly representative actually answers and will route your call however you need to go. So, and you can also use the website if you have issues with taxes to check your balance due. But anyone calling from the IRS, it's not legitimate. Just go ahead and call that number and go from there. But our next thing is a video. We're gonna see if this is gonna play. No. All right. So just to go back. So this is the former FBI director, and he also was a CIA director. So he got a call in regards to a scam, and ultimately the bad guys are on the phone with him, and he's you know, playing along because he knows what this is about, but the bad guys are on the phone with him and asking for money, asking for this and that, and as he plays along with them and the bad guys realize that, they start to escalate things and start to say, because they've done their research, they know where he lives, kind of in an area that doesn't have a lot of houses around it, and he starts to make threats. So in a lot of these fraud schemes, the bad guys are going to start out very nice because they're trying to build those relationships, but at some point when they're not getting what they want, they're going to start threatening you. And that's why sometimes the older population, maybe they live by themselves, the bad guys know just enough about them to make them think that they could actually be coming to their house at any moment. And the bad guys are just instilling fear and trying to get you to do something urgently. That's when you need to just hang up, call someone you trust, tell them what's going on, call the police, and then go from there. But we do have one more video that I hope is going to play.
So just to add to that, while you see if you can get that thing to play, which I kind of like talking about here on this one is, once you do come in contact with a scammer and you know, like, okay, I know I'm being scammed, I know I'm being fraudsters, there's so many emotions going through you and kind of what you want to say to this person. I would just kind of like say, just hang up and just ignore them. Don't entertain or don't get into that argument with them, because that's what they do, right? You're going to get so emotionally involved, so personally involved in it. But for them, it's really no big deal. So they will continue to antagonize you, knowing that that they're trying to scam you. It's not like they'll just hang up and stop, but they'll cause as much stress as they can on you. And I think on this one, with the former director, he went on to say, like, I know where you live, I'm going to go to your house, I'm going to shoot you, and I'm going to burn your house down. Essentially, it's kind of like what he said. And he's not going to do any of those things, but no one wants to hear that when you're on the phone with a stranger. I don't want to be told that you come into my house. I don't care where you are. Like, that's very unsettling feeling. So it's best to just, report it, and just block them and don't deal with them again. That would be, the advice I would give you, instead of trying to, illicitly maybe get some more information on them or trying to turn tables on them. Again, they do this 24/7 and they're very good at what they do. So if you're in a position where you do find someone and you finally know what they're trying to do with you, I wouldn't not engage. I would find, talk to someone else just about what happened to you, and that would be my advice. That's why I kind of like that one, because it kind of shows their demeanor at the end when they stop talking to you, and it's not really pleasant.
And the bad guys, you know how we have jobs and maybe we work 9 to 5 or longer? The bad guys, this is what they're doing for a living. So for them to spend a couple extra minutes and call you incessantly, you're someone on their list of people to call, so they're just doing their job. So that's what they do, and there's literally a whole call center of people who are just have your name on the list and they're going to call you over and over again. Can we see about this one?
Was it more along the lines of a courtship, or was it more along the lines of a friendship?
I think there was a mixture of both. It's funny, there were quite a few calls, but there were a lot more texts. The conversations were sometimes kind of short. Oh, I have to go. And you would hear noise in the background, like he was talking to somebody else. I guess, always sort of have a little thought that there was maybe something wrong with this. He said that he was a CPA and tired, but he still did this for friends. He said he could make a lot of money for me. And I thought, oh, well, that'd be nice. And that would be, something that I could do for my kids. It was the same month that consumer report came out with the whole thing about elder fraud. And a friend was visiting me over the weekend, and I showed it to him, and I said that, you know, I was involved in something like this. And he said, well, you know, I'm going with you tomorrow, but we're going to the cruise. I don't think that I ever stopped it adding up. I just knew it was big sums of money, more than I'd ever had at my disposal before. And I didn't say anything to anybody on Thanksgiving about it because I thought, well, I can't, you know, mess this up totally. My son says to this day, why did you check out with me? I don't know. I think people need to know about this.
So a couple things from this. This victim was saying how sometimes it was a text message, maybe not necessarily a phone call. So that's what they try to do. They want to have that daily contact or build that relationship so when they start asking for money for whatever reason, you're already invested. You guys have been talking for a long time. She said she also, or the victim also never totaled it up. In a lot of these cases, we see a lot of scratched pieces of paper by the time we go to someone's house because they've called us over a lengthy period of time. They've maybe given $1,000 here, $2,000 there. When you add it up, it's gonna equal several $100,000. And they don't realize it at the time because they're only doing a wire for $1,000 here or Western Union or something, but when you add it all up, a lot of the times the victims are even amazed at the total that we're coming up with.
So on the next one, we'll kind of talk about the crypto scams. So these kind of commingle. Actually, it's like the next 3 slides are probably all intermingle into in kind of one talking point here. But this is where we see the biggest losses by far. Is in I won't say crypto. I'll say like more like an investment scams. They turn into crypto scams, but investment scams. But they start off different in some cases. One can be, you know, you met someone online and they'll try to gear their conversations into investing in cryptocurrency. So they're just trying to build that foundation so that they want to start bringing that up to you. A lot of times it's maybe, you know, you saw something on, you know, WhatsApp or Telegram, someone's promoting something. That's how we see it a lot as well. And essentially is they go on to these investment type platforms. And just keep in mind that there'll be 60, 70, 80 people on this chat room. And everyone's making money. Like, it doesn't matter if the market's down 50%. Like, everyone's making money inside the platform. So people obviously are intrigued by that. And they'll kind of start pulling you in that way. But in both ways, the way that kind of works with investment scams in general. So what they'll do is they'll create a platform. It's a fake platform, but it looks very real. It could look like any legitimate platform out there. It'll look like you have tickers on it. You know, it has a market went up, down, all kinds of numbers and stuff like that. You'll be able to log in. You get passwords. It looks just like anything else you log into. But obviously the background of it is nothing. There's nothing there. It's just someone entering, you know, whatever they want in there. So that's how they'll kind of like throw that, you know, the line out you to see like, hey, this is our investment platform, this is where we make all our money. So then they want you to kind of, you know, hey, let's just try it out. Usually a lot of times they'll say I have an uncle or a family member who is an investor, and they make it sound really complicated in investing. I mean, really, really complicated. Like, I have an uncle who's a day trader in futures options. Like, they'll say every trade return they can out there. And they're making, you know, $100,000 every day, depending on what they invest. So they know they can't ask you for, you know, $100,000 right at the beginning. So what are they going to try to do? They're going to just have you try to invest in a small amount, just to show that it's working. So say, you know, you put in $1,000 in there, and then all of a sudden, it's usually these are short-term trades. They're like 50 seconds or a minute. So that minute's up, and you just made a couple $100. So with that, they'll ask you, hey, do you want to withdraw some of your profits? Because they want you to withdraw small amounts. They don't want you drawing big amounts. So you'll go ahead, you'll withdraw from the platform. Hey, I want to do a withdrawal of my profit plus my original investment. Let's say $1,500. You'll withdraw that $1,500. It'll go through, you know, it'll go to your crypto wallet, whatever you have, and you'll see that it works. And that's that's just where it starts. That's, and now they start telling you, you just made $500 in one day. If you had invested $50,000, you would have made $5,000. Okay, sounds good. So they put $50,000 in that day, they do a short-term trade, they just made $5,000. And you can go inside that platform and you'll see a new balance of $55,000 on there. And you're like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. So you start adding more and more and more and more money in there. To the point where you'll start, taking equities out, whatever you can get access to. You'll ask families and friends, and you'll put everything you ever made into that platform. And let's say you invested, a couple $100,000, that platform will have you at a little over $1 million. And then, as far as you just invest everything you had, and now that's just started. Now things get a lot worse. So you have $1.2 million in a platform. So now you say, hey, I want to make a withdrawal. Let's just try a $100,000 withdrawal or 500, whatever it is. And now these are all the reasons start coming up. Okay, before you can do a withdrawal, you have to pay the taxes on it. You can't take an investment out without paying taxes. Obviously, that's not true, but they're saying you have to pay, 20% of what you want to take out. So you're like, okay, well, I have $1 million in there. I'll pay another $100,000. So I'll put together $100,000, put it in the platform, so I get that $1.2 million out. So you do that. Now another problem. The bank blocked it because of anti-money laundering laws. So now you need a certificate in order to withdraw that money. That's going to cost you 7%. Okay, well, I'm getting $1.2 million, so I'm going to pay 7.5%, so I get more $1.2 million. They'll pay that. And then after they send that, it'll be something else. It'll be something else until they finally realize, I'm being scammed, I'm being defrauded. And the hard thing about these things are when, like I said, like when the victim comes in, and you kind of talk, the ones who are especially kind of on the fence and not really sure, it's hard when someone who has invested their whole life savings, in one hand, you kind of have to, you're talking to them that they just lost everything they worked for, but not only that, the $1 million they thought they had that was going to go for every kid and every generation for years to come, that's all gone. So, just imagine a person who just, had everything all at once and then obviously had nothing, in the same minute. It's really, really difficult in that sense. And these are probably, as far as timing, these are super important as well because crypto moves really fast. So, if you're someone or someone who may, be a crime of this, again, call, submit IC3, but these are the ones that you want to, get out there as quickly as possible so we can try, if at all, do anything we can. And a lot of times, depending on the timing, it is extremely difficult sometimes to get things back. But don't let that persuade you from reporting something. Because a lot of times, just going out there and just talking to someone, I've talked to a lot of people. They're just thankful that someone was just there to listen. You know what I mean? They're in a really tough spot. So having someone to listen, kind of talk about their story, get everything together, that's going to be the lowest point in life, and we're there to kind of help them get back from that. Often we want to get money back from them, but that's not, only the goal. We know that they're in a low point and they need a lot of help getting back up from that, which is why we get our victim specialists involved, so that we can provide whatever resources we can provide to help them get back on their feet. And one of the things, too, that's important with that is they kind of partner with like AARP, and that is great because those are all victims who went through the exact same thing. So it's one thing when you're talking to someone like law enforcement as far as what had happened. It's another thing to talk to a victim who just went through the exact same thing you went through, and talk to them and ask them like, hey, how did you do this? Like, what other tools are out there can we use to help ourselves out? So it's always good to talk to other victims, and that is a great spot to talk to other victims as far as like, hey, what did you do? What resources do you have? Like, we have resources, but we don't have them all. Amongst the all, we have all the resources that we need. It's just a matter of how do we get there, and what can we do?
So one of the things Brian was saying about like the groups of people who were investing, which maybe the victim got into this chat group to talk about potentially investing, and all the other people in the group who had these wonderful returns, most likely everyone else in that group was a scammer. So if you are in a situation and you are thinking about an investment and the returns seem too good to be true, once again, talk to your trusted friend, take a step back, maybe watch that chat group a little bit, maybe think about, do I really understand this kind of investment? Should I maybe just invest in another way? But you just want to take a step back and think about it for a second. And then we have, we kind of talked about this a little bit, but the tech support scams, you'll get a pop-up, like there's an issue with your computer gets locked. A lot of cases, you'll have a pop-up, but really there's like 15 pop-ups on top of your pop-up. So when you try to click out of that first pop-up to get rid of it, to continue using your computer, there's so many underneath that you have to really just go through all of them. And a lot of people don't do that, so they end up looking at what the pop-up is and call the number. Remember, you want to always verify, what is that number? If it's supposed to be for Microsoft or something, look up that number another way. Don't just call the number that they list. But inevitably, this will be the beginning of the scam. I think Brian was talking about issue with the computer, and then all of a sudden there's an issue with your personal identifying information, and then there might be a warrant for you. This is all layers on top of one another. Once again, to cause urgency so you can make a decision that's going to mean the bad guy gets money and you lose money.
And to add to that, one of the things they'll do too, just to kind of be aware of, is they'll try to get remote access to your desktop. And essentially, why do they want to do that? Is so, you know, say you have a scam that's coming up and they want to kind of they know where you bank, but they don't have the credentials for it. So the remote, access, they'll see it all. But what they'll do is they'll create a fraudulent website for a bank. It'll look exactly like that website, but what it is, that number on that fraudulent website will be the fake number. But they have you do it. They'll have you say, hey, let's find the bank. They'll click on the fraudulent site. You know, their bank will come up. Click on login, but in the background they have keylock logger. So you're entering your information, thinking that it's secure, but really it's a fake site, and you just gave them your login credentials to that bank. So we tend to see a lot of that too. So keep in mind, when you're accessing something online with, tech support, that's kind of like driving where you're going and stuff like that. Even though you may see your bank website come up, just keep in mind they do create mirror images of what you're used to seeing, but essentially they put those fraudulent numbers on there so that you can call, and you're thinking in your head, no, I got the number from the bank, my bank. Like, I went to my homepage, you got the bank number. So these, I don't know if how common these are up here. I'm not even sure if there's any personnel dealers up here, but this is a little bit more as far as, I guess, getting a little bit more popular. And all this is, kind of we talked about before, is instead of put money into the financial system or crypto, they're purchasing some type of good, some type of thing that they can pick up. So that would mean you'll get on a phone and there'll actually be a courier that you'll actually meet, and you'll provide them whatever it is that you purchased. And then the other thing, which it's not here on the island, is the Bitcoin ATMs. You'll see, at least back on where we are, there's a lot of ATM machines for that, and a lot of the scams that you'll see is that they're feeding the ATM thousands of dollars, given like a QR code they can scan and send it to a cryptocurrency address. So that's kind of like the newer trends that we are seeing, at least out there. I'm not sure how much this pertains to here.
And just remember, bad guys are trying to get money separated from you. You've worked really long and hard and you have this nest egg. They're wanting to get it the easiest way for them to get it without it being traced. So Bitcoin, like once that's sent off, it's very hard to get that money back because it's moving so quickly. A wire transfer back in the day used to be the way to go, but you can still call the bank and try to track it down from bank to bank. The bad guys are trying to come up with ways to separate you from your money, but either insulating themselves, so bad guys are insulating themselves by having money mules, so the money goes to several different people before it gets to them, or they're trying to have it sent in a way that it's really hard to trace. So we kind of went over this, but why is and once again, it's not just the elderly population, we could all become victims of fraud, but it's this population that's being targeted because they've worked so long and hard, they've built that nest egg, they're hoping to retire and enjoy life, so they have the funds. Also, guess what? They're not working anymore. So they're sitting, hopefully they're traveling or outside taking a walk, or they're at home. So one of the ways that they'll be contacted is on the phone, or we always carry our phones with us everywhere, so be contacted that way. And also, I mean, I even know my parents' generation, very trusting, right? They didn't grow up with computers. They didn't grow up with all these scams, but computers are allowing people to have access to people across the world, and all these scams are coming about. So an older generation is more trusting. So if you tell them that there's a warrant for their arrest, they're probably going to believe you, and they're going to be scared, and they're going to follow whatever instructions you give them. And then also this population, sometimes there's memory issues. So if the bad guy's talking to them every day and they've built that relationship, maybe they'll be like, hey, well, don't you remember we discussed this last week? You were going to send me this money, and might twist things that way. Who does this? The scams? Anyone that has contact with you. So the older population, it could be any care assistants, anyone who has access to you on the phone. You just have to be very careful, with the older generation, you have to, and us, we have to have that trusted friend that we can talk about what's going on. And then, like we said, sky's the limit in regards to how people could get in touch with you. And then reluctance, some of the complications. By the time they come into our office, if it's a victim of a romance scam, they've already spoken to this person for so long that, it has to be true, right? They don't want to end the conversations. Like in that lottery case, that gentleman came into my office several years into the lottery scam, and he was terrified to tell his wife. So what does he do? He asks if he could have a meeting and come in with him and his wife so I could tell her what happened. Like, he couldn't even tell his spouse what had happened because he was so upset, he was shameful that he lost the nest egg. But the more we talk about this and support one another and bounce ideas off of one another, hopefully we can prevent people from getting into those situations where they've lost everything. Physical and emotional suffering, maybe they can no longer, they're losing their house because of this. There's a lot of things that it's just complicates, the feelings complicate what's happening to them. So what can we do? We need to safeguard our information. So there's a bunch of handouts on the side there, so that go over some of the common fraud schemes, but also there's a packet for identity theft. What you can do is safeguard your personal identifying information, your date of birth, social security number, all those things. Maybe by checking your credit once a year. If you don't need to open a new line of credit, maybe you're going to put a freeze on your credit so other people can't be accessing your personal identifying information or opening new accounts in your name. Social media, don't have your social media sent to public. Lock it down only to the people in your contacts. So the bad guys that are, if you're an overshare and you're, talking about your grandkids and the vacation you're about to go on, you don't want to give the bad guy any additional information that they can research and then, use that against you in their fraud scheme. And then be careful on your computer. Don't let anyone install any software programs, even if they say they're, a computer tech. Hopefully find someone in your family that's good with computers, if you don't understand what's going on, and get help from more of a trusted person than someone who's online. And, don't send money to people you don't know. In these romance scams, they build that relationship, but like when I think about it in my life, when in your life has someone asked you for a sum of money after you've only met them online and you've never met them in person, right? So meet them in person, try to meet them in person. You're gonna find that if they don't wanna meet you in person, maybe it's because they really don't wanna have a relationship with you, they just want your money. They're trying to build that.
Yeah, and again, like, you know, all of this is great, but like, I think we're all susceptible to it. I think at some point, one or another, like, we're either gonna be scammed or someone's gonna try to attempt to scam us. Like, I think we're at the point now where that's probably gonna happen, especially when you see, you know, in the alien population, I feel like it's even more so, but even for me, like, I've had, you know, unemployment open up in different states and stuff like that, like, it happens all the time, so kind of like what Sarah was saying, you know, as much as we want to have these safeguards in place, at the end of the day, it's incumbent on I guess, our own to make sure we're reviewing, like, you know, like Kenny's saying, like, our financial stuff to make sure there's nothing that's, you know, being open or anything like that. But also, more importantly, just kind of like, you know, our jobs, you know, is to kind of just get out there in the community, talk to people, and making sure that they're doing okay, especially someone who's, you know, going through a tough time, maybe just lost someone, and they're really looking to, you know, connect someone. These guys will absolutely fill that void, and, you know, we don't want that. We want the community to fill that void so that they feel, you know, great talking to us about things. And when things do, you know, don't go great, we're hoping up those bonds are strong enough so that we can at least have a conversation about it, right? We definitely don't want to, you know, come to a point where, you know, someone's really struggling, but they feel like they don't want to report it. So we're hoping that 1 out of 20, you know, gets to 20 out of 20, but like that's our job to kind of get out there, and that's why we appreciate, you know, opportunity to kind of get out here so we can kind of at least show you what's out there. But at the end of the day, there's nothing crazy, you know, that we do. A lot of it is just, you know, communicating and the reporting, right? That's how it all starts.
Yeah, so what everyone should do when they go home is go talk to a neighbor, maybe, you know, right? Next door they haven't spoken to in a while, see what they're up to, and try to build those relationships so when they're going through a tough time, maybe they would call you instead of something like this happening. But you can get involved if you have an issue, you know, if someone's asking you for money, like, and you go to the bank and the bank is asking you questions and you're upset because it's your money, why are they asking you questions? They have your best interest in mind. They have seen the red flags and they want to help you. So like, think about that. Build relationships maybe with your banks, and kind of stay on top of your finances to know what's going on. If there's any, if you do send money out and you realize maybe it wasn't a good idea, time is of the essence for getting money back, so it's important that you reach out to the bank, to law enforcement, things like that. And if your phone is ringing off the hook because you won the lottery, you know, change your number, block the call, try to eliminate them from being able to contact you.
Yeah, and just to reiterate that, just, you know, please keep that contact relationship with your bank. Like, they're definitely for your you know, for your interest. So also, like, if you have things like 401 or whatever, just keep in contact with them so that, you know, it's nice to have that pattern, so when something's out of place, they can recognize it and they've seen it already, so they can kind of help you walk through that. So it's definitely important. I definitely reiterate that.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, like, bad guy is going to create that sense of urgency. Nothing is an emergency. You can always take a break, talk to someone to make the decision. And we just, you know, I'd rather have someone call the local PD or call us and ask because they're unsure than to find out later that they've been victimized. We are there to help you, so we want to help you through figuring out anything that can happen.
Yeah, and just to add to that, don't feel like, you know, you can't underreport anything, because, you know, and a piece of information you provide on IC3, maybe it didn't scam you, identified it. That could potentially help another victim. So please, like, you know, if someone's trying to scam you and they had like an email address or obviously wire instruction or anything like that, any personal identifier is helpful, because you know, we really review this stuff to one, connect other victims, because, you know, you're sitting there, you may think like you're the victim, that person has victimized so many more people. So the other thing that's really helpful about this is, you know, if it's out there, when we query it, we can identify you and contact you, and, you know, and kind of help you out. So please utilize, you know, the resources, you know, especially in IC3 if you want to report where you haven't really lost anything, but you're like, hey, this could be helpful for someone else. You know, please just report on to IC3 so that it's there and it'll be available.
So these are a bunch of websites and telephone numbers for more information, and then like I said, the common fraud schemes that we see, there's one-page literature over there that you can grab. But what about questions? Does anyone have any questions?
So how does, when we file an IC3, how does that process, can you walk us through how that process works? Where does it go? Who looks at it?
Yeah, you go online. We're recommending that the victims fill out the IC3 report. I know sometimes you'll have people come into the police department and they're not computer savvy. The reason that we ask that the victims fill it out is because if the funds have gone internationally, our host partners will use that as the victim's affidavit. So instead of having to do another affidavit, they'll use that and they'll continue on with an investigation. So in addition, we hope that as much information as the victim has should be put in there. I know it can be cumbersome and somewhat of a pain in the butt, but if there were several wire transfers, we want to know the routing number or the SWIFT numbers for all of those wire transfers, the date it happened, a summary of what happened. So it goes to the Internet Crime Complaint Center. It's a repository, and what happens, certain instances, if money was sent within a certain period of time, it automatically is sent to the field office that covers the area in which the victim is. And there's like a rapid response group that has contact with the banks, and they will start working the problem 24/7. But also, if the victim is in our AOR, our area of responsibility, it will be routed to our office. So if it's the loss threshold that we would work, we'll be informed of it. So the smaller amounts will be put together to make a larger case and sent to the office that would cover it so they can work it. So we don't always get all of the reports depending on the total loss, but if you submit an IC3 complaint, it's good to call us too to say, hey, I just did it, depending on what the total loss is, so we can pull it up and we can start working the problem. But the goal is, if money was just sent, we're working the problem of trying to get the funds back immediately.
And to add to that, Chief, too, so we're trying to be a little more proactive with those as well, because we have seen some instances where, someone can report an IC3 and they're kind of thinking like they're being scammed, but maybe they're not fully scammed yet. So it's good to we want to talk to them as quickly as possible to let them know, hey, this is a scam, don't send any more money, because what we don't want to see is someone reporting an IC3, maybe didn't lose anything, but then all of a sudden, 6 months later, they just lost $500,000. So we're trying to do a better job of that as far as being proactive and contacting, IC3 complainants, so that, obviously, if they were a victim, that's one thing, but they may not know yet. They have somewhat an idea. So we read a lot of these, so sometimes you can tell this is exactly, the same playbook that they use, so we want to contact them. So we're kind of going both ways. One, as far as like the losses, we want to try to get some of that stuff back, but two, we're trying to keep victims from being further victimized if they're not really sure yet. So.
Because in some cases, you'll find out about it 6 months later, and you will have seen the loss just go up incrementally. And if you would have seen it in the beginning, we could have, interacted with them and maybe told them that it was a fraud scheme. But there's a lot of different factors. So it's important, if you're submitting an IC3, also call us at the FBI and your local police department, and we'll start seeing what we can do.
I noticed earlier in your presentation, you had an interesting chart that detailed month by month, the breakdown of monies lost by the over 60 population in the Boston area. And I noticed in September 2024, that amount was something like 21 million as opposed to, say, 3.9 million in February. Is there like a seasonality to this, or is that just coincidence?
No, that I know exactly where that comes from. That was an incident that really brought that number up.
That's a big number.
Yeah, it was a big number. Yeah, unfortunately, it was a big number. But yeah, I remember that. I do know that.
This has been tremendously helpful, so thank you so much for putting this together. I'm really focusing in on your advice to create a trusted relationship with a friend or a banker or whoever it might be. Because we oftentimes hear about family issues over money and who to trust and how to define that. And I'm wondering if you have any information about that relationship that we could share in an educational fashion, such as what are some of the characteristics that you might want to look for in a trusted friend? And I know this, maybe it just sounds really basic, but I do think that it gets complicated very quickly depending on who your trusted friend is. So do you have any information available right now, or would you consider putting together, you know, when I think about like a healthcare proxy,
Sure.
where we're submitting those to our medical providers on who it is that we are really letting make a decision at that point in our life.
Right.
It feels like there could be a lot more opportunity to share your great insight on what that relationship looks like and what are some of the questions we should be asking or thinking about when we think about who that person is.
Okay, that's interesting. We don't have a formula for that, but I think just speaking off the top of my head, I think someone independent, like it could be a family member, but sometimes I think not having it someone directly related to the family and a totally independent person who can have an open mind. So I don't have, Brian, do you have anything?
No, I mean, I would just kind of like those relationships as far as the financial guardrails of everything, right? So with your bank, that's probably what I would stress the most. But I think as a friend, like if I'm talking to someone and I want to make sure everything's okay, I think it's gonna be very hard for you to articulate that to that person because I think they'll provide you, and I think you'll see, hey, something's going on here. But it depends on the situation, but it may not be up to you to make that decision, right? You just want to bring that attention to someone. And that IC3 doesn't have to be just for the person. Like I can file it on behalf of, say, someone else, but like, hey, I feel like something's going on, or report it. But that's where I think the friendship kind of comes in is, you know that person's not going to report anything. You know that. But it's like, what can I do to help them out? That's where you want to kind of go to these safeguards. You know, going to IC3, talking to your bank, talking to your local smart, going to the community center. Getting them to that position where hopefully, we can kind of get it to come to that. But as far as, what you could do personally, it's hard because I've had plenty of phone calls where, the child is, talking about the parents, like, listen, I don't know what to do. My dad keeps sending money. I've talked to him, everyone's talked to him, but there's just sometimes there's not much you can do because for whatever reason in their head, they just want to do what they want to do. But sometimes if they're going to send it, no matter what, they're going to send it, and there's not much you can do. So just know, like, I don't think there's no perfect answer for that. It's just trying to be there for someone so that if that happens and you can bring kind of the community around them, then maybe as a community we can kind of help with that situation. It's very hard, I think, for one person to try to do that.
Yeah, so to springboard off of the question that Cindy just asked, one of the things that I find particularly useful as a municipal employee working for the town of Edgartown is that we're offered regular trainings digitally on how to avoid scams and how to protect ourselves. And I found those trainings incredibly useful, incredibly engaging because they're done in a very colorful way, and the training might be 15 minutes long, so I can, I feel like I'm utilizing my time well in the short training and walking away with a lot of valuable information. And I think these maybe quarterly trainings perhaps have prevented me from being scammed on a personal level as well as helped protect the municipality. So I'm wondering, and I know the town pays for these digital trainings. I'm wondering if the elder, as part of the Elder Justice Initiative, a training platform like that could be available and spread widely to older adults so that they could be reminded regularly of these aspects of how to stay safe and to perhaps reach out to a trusted friend to, run it by them, and to help their level of protection.
I think that's a good idea that we'll bring back and see if we can do something like that. That's interesting.
Yep. Yeah, we're always trying to find ways to do that. We were, that's why coming out here is probably, the best thing we can probably do, but yeah, you're right. It's something to kind of keep reminding that this could happen. When everything's going great, you're thinking clearly. It's just when things go bad and you're not thinking clearly, that's where you need all the safeguards.
I've never seen on the news the consequences for running a scam or these call centers. Do you work with foreign governments and go and take down these call centers, or who ends up with the money? How many people are sitting in jail because they've been scamming people? Or you don't catch enough to put them in jail?
So, so to answer that, yes, we do work with our foreign law enforcement partners to fight combat this crime, because frankly, we kind of have to. And as far as, right, we're here, and a lot of these scammers, maybe they're overseas, it's limited as far as what we can do, but there are options. And we've had a lot of success in some situations, where, yes, they haven't, not here arrested, but they have been arrested there. And that's that collaborative effort that we kind of bring with our foreign partners, for sure. So that's definitely something that we've done.
Do the foreign governments say, hey, we had all these people scam me, they're gonna be in jail for 10 years, so it puts like a threat to them not to join this? Or do they work on commission, or, I don't understand the business model for the scammers.
I mean, the business model, I mean, as we saw the numbers, I mean,
Yeah.
it's in the billions of dollars. I mean, they make so much money. So as far as business related,
Do they work on
they do it
commission?
because it works,
Yeah.
you know? So I think it's more so, maybe to kind of go off your answer is, it's more incumbent on us to keep people from getting scammed to begin with. So the funds aren't being sent, you know, to the scammers. So I think it's kind of, you kind of have to work it both ways. Yes, we're doing our law enforcement part as far as working with our foreign law enforcement, but also it's just, if not more, I think it's more important is to get out there in the community, talk about these things so people are aware of it, so that we can prevent that from leaving in the first place. Because if it doesn't go, then there's no scam. So I think that's kind of what we need to be and what we need to focus on is kind of like the things we're trying to do, you know, together as a community to help each other out. Especially, you know, I feel like when I went through my mom's phone, and she's older, the amount of scams I saw on her phone, it was incredible. It was so much more than what I saw on my phone. And it's just like a constant bombardment of it. So I think that constant reminder of it, you know, as much, you know, we don't want people living like everything's a scam, but I think it's helpful if you have that bond relationship in the community. I think together it kind of takes the burden off everyone's shoulders and everyone kind of share it a little bit. So it's not, hey, I'm the victim and I'm mad at Sarah because she's telling me I'm being victimized. It's kind of like, hey, I think it's a group of people kind of sharing that. And I think it's easier that way versus it being just one person.
Yeah, well, I've called the Martha's Vineyard Bank, and they have been very helpful every time I've called. And the other person I rely on is the tech person at the library. They know immediately yes or no.
Good, see, you have trusted people you can talk to, that's
Yeah,
great.
other than a friend.
Great, yeah,
Community resources, yeah.
that's good.
We'll go right ahead.
Oh, yeah, great.
I have not been solicited for any money, but I've been getting repeated calls to look for my Medicare information. They give you some copy-based card, and can you verify this, and what is your date of birth, and so on. So anyway, I would take the information, I called my local police department. They have on 2 or 3 times when I had the information with the phone number, tried to follow up. Of course, they disappear off the face of the earth. What's interesting is that I have caller ID, and their caller ID is a town in Massachusetts, and a 508 number. So if I'm quick enough, I can get the town on the phone number that I can. In the meantime, from my local police, I called, reported to AARP fraud, and I also reported it to Medicare.gov. So, but lately they have been more persistent. I'm getting 1 and 2 times a call. And you know, like I said, I have caller ID, so when I see that it's a town, I just let it go. Or if they really want to get in touch with me, they'll leave a voicemail, which they do not. And they need to find people who speak better English.
Well, I'm glad that you haven't really engaged with them other than getting the information and passing it along to the police department. And just remember, anyone can spoof a number, so your caller ID, they can make it look like whatever they want. So don't always trust that, but I think you're doing the right thing, calling the local police.
It's getting annoying.
I know. They're hoping they get you so annoyed that you pick up and maybe engage with them.
Any other questions? Before we end, I would like to thank the Dukes County Sheriff's Office and the FBI for coming here this morning, collaborating with Martha's Vineyard Bank and bringing this critical information to our community. And thank you to the law enforcement who are here today, and also representatives from agencies that work with our island elder population. It's truly all of us together working out as a community, discussing this topic, and having the resources to be able to help each other out, to be able to protect our island elder population. So thank you all. Please make sure to go to those tables. There's a lot of information. We have some booklets on all of the scams as well that we have in all of our island retail offices at the bank, as well as the ID, the credit information, how to pull your credit, just great safety resources from the FBI, the Sheriff's Office, and Martha's Vineyard Bank. So thank you all, and please feel free to reach out with any questions. I think this is a conversation that we need to keep talking about and finding resources to be able to really stop a lot of this fraud that's going around. So thank you all.
Thank you.